In this video, we're going to look at creating a histogram using Desmos, the graphing version of Desmos. And so using, again, the data that we used in the other two videos, again, we're going to have the governor's names for the state of Arizona, and the birth date, the birthplace, and the party are not quantitative data, they're qualitative data. And so we're going to use the quantitative data of age at inauguration. So when I am in Desmos, so the first thing I need to do is define a list. So I'm just going to use a capital letter L and equals. And that list really can be named anything, but L makes sense for a list, so that's why I'm calling it L. I'm going to again take this data set and copy it. And then I'm going to go back to Desmos and I'm just going to paste that data set. And notice that when I paste that data set, it automatically puts commas and it starts it or it ends it with a bracket, and it's telling us there are 23 elements in that data set, which we know that there's 23 governors for the state of Arizona since the state has become a state. All right, so now in our second line, so line 2, we just click on it to open up line 2. I'm going to use my keypad down here, or the ability to do different functions, and I go to functions, and I'm going to scroll down. It's not in statistics, we'll get to that later, but it's in visualization. So I want to visualize the histogram is what it's telling me. So I'm going to take the histogram and notice it's saying, well, what data set do I want to use? So I'm going to use the L data set, comma, and then I want to bin width, so let's just call it 5. And so this little bar right here is telling us, hey, we're going to do a histogram. And because I want to see the histogram, because you'll see that it did not show up here, I want to hit the zoom fit, and then now it's given me my histogram. So now keep in mind, we know the age of the first person is 40 that we've been using. So we're going to align this to the left. So it's going to move our data over to the left. And I'm actually just going to move my graph over. So I'm just controlling and sliding it over. So I hold down and slide it. I noticed that I have to figure out what am I counting by here, and it looks like I'm counting by 2, so I can see that that's a 1. Now I don't know, I have to go back and look at my data, and if there's any 45-year-olds, and we know that Governor Pyle is a 45-year-old, so if we look at our histogram, we know that that is, again, placed in the second bar. Unfortunately, there's not a great way to label this kind of graph, so the best thing to do is you would go up to share the graph, and then you can export it as an image, or you could print it, and then you can print it as a PDF. But if you export it as an image, and then you can paste it in something like Word, and then be able to give it some titles and label the axes correctly. Okay, and since this is counting by 2s, I can change that. So if I go up to the wrench, and for my y-axis, maybe I want to only go from -5 to 20, but I want to count it by 1. So my 1 is here, so I can count it by 1s, and then now I can see that the big marks here are 1, and then notice it's giving me smaller marks, but I can see that a little clearer, and then I don't have to figure out, I don't have to guess necessarily. I can also, instead of doing this step, I can leave the 1 out and just delete that, and then that makes it a little bit cleaner of a graph. So that's a nice thing to do. We also know that a histogram is created by knowing how many items are in the graph. So we can also do, from this list of functions, we can do the visualizations, we can do the dot plot. So we can actually see that where our lists are. So I'm going to minimize this. I can see where and I want a bin width still of 5. and I want these to be aligned just like I had it aligned in the histogram. I'll align it in the left. So now I see that the 45-year-old is sitting on the line, but I can count. So I have one person 40 years old there in this first box. I have somebody that's 45 there in the second box. So this makes the visualization a little bit cleaner. And then we know that we can see wherever each person falls, especially if they fall right on the defining line.